Wabi Thunder in Desert Turquoise. Got this bike almost about 2 years ago, so I've had it for quite a while. This is just proof of how much fun and how much I value my Wabi Classic, which now switched spaces with this. I did go ahead and buy another Wabi just because I wanted something that could fit slightly wider tires and something that I could ride more as a chill, off-road, wide tire cruiser, commuter type bike, whatever you want to call it. Pros of this bike: simple, cheap, robust, easy to replace. Shares a lot of the same pros with the Wabi Classic we were just talking about. No disc brakes, no variable gears, no carbon fork, no carbon seat posts, so that just means that it's going to ride very well, and it's also going to be not just cheap to buy, cheap to replace. And actually this one I've locked up a couple of times in New York City, in Manhattan nonetheless, with 2 or 3 heavy-duty locks, mind you. And although I would be devastated if it ever did get a bike stolen, having a bike stolen that's only $1,000 as compared to something that's $4,000, $5,000, or $6,000 is just a lot easier to digest. So those are the pros. Now we're going to talk about the cons. First con is going to be these brakes. By far, I have never been so frustrated with a pair of brakes that I've had on any bicycles, including my BMX bike with rim brakes, my disc brakes, which were first generation on my Felt VR30 that we'll talk about a little bit later, any of my hydraulic brakes, any of the disc rotors that bent. By far, the wide tire V-brake or cantilever style rim brakes of the yesteryear, a couple decades ago when everyone was on rim brakes for mountain bikes and cyclocross, they have been the most frustrating. The brake shutter is unavoidable on the front. The V-brakes, while they're very powerful, they're very on and off. And when I had the cantilever brakes, I just couldn't get them powerful enough. Now, I mentioned it was steel, and it does ride pretty nice. However, it does not ride as smooth as the Wabi Classic, which is kind of insane since I always run at least a 32mm tire on this bike, if not a 38 or 40mm tire. It still does ride nicer than my Giant TCR did, being full carbon stiff race bike, but it's not really 100% what the Classic does, which is kind of insane since you would think that a narrow tire racy style bike would be a lot harsher than a gravel cyclocross style single speed steel bike that has wider tires. It also doesn't have the same agility as the Classic does. Of course, it's a bit longer, it's a bit more relaxed, being an all-road bike, not just a road racing bike. And I actually do like the geometry. I find that it's perfect. It's relaxed enough that it's not twitchy, but you could still move it very fast. It's definitely still a racy feeling bike, but it doesn't have that same get up and go as the Classic does. I've even put narrow 28mm race tires on it, and it definitely does come pretty close to the Classic. It's not quite there, and it still just does not ride as smooth as the Classic either. Now, would I buy this bike again? No. Sorry, Wabi, I love you guys, but me and this bike just didn't get along as some of your other models like the Classic behind me. It really just comes down to that if I'm going to take a single speed bike, I'm going to want something that's fast, that's agile, that's nimble, and a more simpler riding experience. And if I'm going to take that single speed off-road, again, it's not the right tool for the job anyway, so I'm just going to mount 28 to 32mm tires and just do the best I can. If I do want to go above a 35mm tire to either 38 or 40, I would just rather go with something that has proper disc brakes so that I don't have to worry about the rim brakes, and something with variable gears, since on gravel, when it gets pretty loose and you start to stand up to climb, you're going to lose a lot of traction on the back wheels. So it's kind of almost like you get the wider tire clearance with this bike, but if you do want a wider tire clearance, why not just go the full all the way and get a proper gravel bike? And you don't even have to get something that's carbon. You could just get something like a Surly Straggler, which has a 1x11 drivetrain, so you don't have the front derailleur, which keeps things simpler, but it still comes with disc brakes, which are more than likely not going to give you as many issues as mini V-brakes or cantilever brakes. Now, I've thought about selling this bike, but I don't think I am going to just yet, but definitely stay tuned because something may be coming. We may be changing this bike out, just doing a couple things just to make it a little bit better. And I'll definitely film that and post that on this channel.